Welcome to another edition of Hockey from Home, brought to you by Kemba Financial Credit Union. I'm Bob McElligott. Today, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Columbus Blue Jackets and bringing back another familiar face. I would say in the first couple of years, you could make the argument this guy was the most familiar face, and ironically, he had his face covered the entire time. Ron Tugnutt, former Blue Jackets goaltender, is with me right now. I want to explain how this works. I'm going to talk to Ron here, but while I do, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, you can just go down at the bottom of your screen. You can ask your question, put your question in there. It'll pop up on the screen, and then we will go ahead and get those questions and ask them of Ron. So now that you have the rules and that's how it works, let's get to it. First of all, Ron, thanks for taking some time to talk with me. I saw you a couple of years ago. I met you at a playoff game, and you were kind enough to go on the set with Jean-Luc Grandpierre and I prior to the game in the concourse there. And that wasn't that long ago, but it seems like a long time ago. So it's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's nice to see you too. And I really enjoyed my time down there on that trip. Seen a lot of people, and it's like I crammed it in. But at the end of it, it was an exciting couple days, and it was great to see the area and how the rink has developed around it, because I hadn't seen that at all. So what changes from the first 2 years? For sure, huge changes.
Yeah, and if you would have been able to come and be at this 20th anniversary game in person, you'd see even more changes around here. That's just how it is. So, and this is one of the Jody Shelley and I were doing a show, and we were talking about this. Just first of all, for the players to play in front of no fans, it's difficult. There's no energy to draw off of. But I think for the Blue Jackets, celebrating this 20th anniversary, this is normally a night where they would call you and say, hey, Ron, we're going to bring you in. We want you to come out on the ice and drop a puck before the game and all those great things. But they have to go by the wayside right now, which is disappointing, but we're still trying to make do the best we can with you here.
Well, I think it's great what you guys are doing. I think it kind of connects us with everybody else, and get to speak with the fans still and enjoy the talking about the old days. But 5 more years is 25, so maybe we'll make that one special.
That's ironic. That's exactly what I said to Jody. I said, well, 25 is not that far away. So yeah, hopefully that's going to be the way that we're going to handle it here. Going back to those early years, and I've been reading a lot of stories here, especially as of late, about the first couple of years of this franchise. And they were special for many reasons. But one of the reasons that it was special is because it was a group that got along so well, and a group that found a way to overachieve and help the people in Central Ohio fall in love with it. And how proud are you to be a part of that group?
I'm extremely proud of that. I think that when I first came in, Doug brought me in and he goes, I need you to be a leader, and I need you to help get this franchise going. And that's on ice, it's off ice. And he goes, I'm going to ask a lot of you, and I'm hoping that you're ready to do it. And so years later, to find out that there's people still do remember me and enjoyed my time there, I think that maybe I've done that, which is very satisfying and gratifying. And it's always nice to say that we can always come back to Ohio and visit a lot of people. I know my wife talks to families still and friends down there, and I still make it down periodically with my motorcycle to go riding with my guys down there. And we loved it there. We really did. Everyone asked us what Columbus, Ohio was like. And I just said, it was a great place to raise a family. Our kids were young, and we lived in Powell, and we loved the area. We felt safe. We opened our door, let our kids run up and down the street, never a concern. And, for a lot of friends that I played with in other places, they said, what's, Columbus, Ohio is a city. And to tell them that stuff, they're like, wow, it's a great place to live.
Yeah, and it wasn't the only place that you played, too. I mean, like when you got here, you were coming from other places. So it's kind of funny. If you look at the other stops that you made along the way, where does Columbus rank in your mind, with your career now being well over and you can look back at all of your experiences? Where does it rank here?
Well, I think it's very close to the top, if not the top. I think Ottawa is also, one of those ones for me. Ottawa was shortly removed from an expansion setup. They were like 5 years in when I got there, and things really started to go well during my time there. And, we made a lot of friends there too. And I was there for 4 years. And from there, it was like short little trips between places until I got to Columbus. And, I signed a 4-year deal in Columbus, I tell everybody if I would have played the full 4 years, I would have retired there and still been living there like a bunch of those other guys. And I think Jody says we're up to like 13 guys now that have moved in and lived here. And I said, well, I would have been one of them too if I would have played the 4 years. But Doug wanted me out, and he wanted Mark Denis to become the starter, and I was on the move again.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Mark Denis and, what it's like as the veteran guy who's basically grooming the young guy to take his job. It happens all the time in this sport, but what was it like for you and your relationship with Mark while you were going through all of that?
Well, I knew for me at the age I was at, I knew I wasn't going to be the Tom Brady of goaltending and play into my mid 40s. So I know I was on the back end of everything, but my job was, Doug said, was the same, was to help Mark Denis along. But when I went to Ottawa, I was 27, 28. And my job there was to try to really establish myself and become the number one, and hopefully sign a good contract. But coming to Columbus, I did sign a good contract. And part of my job was to, mentor Mark Denis. And he wasn't very difficult to mentor. He was a really driven player. He wanted to compete for the number one spot right from the beginning, which I'm not surprised. Most guys do. But at the end, we had a great relationship. We were both very close. We still see each other once in a while when I was working in Hockey Night in Canada and with the World Juniors. And it was always great to see him. But it was his time to take off. And so I went from Columbus to Dallas, where I was doing basically the same job with Mark Denis, with Marty Turco, where I was kind of there to support him and help him. And then when that was done, I was done.
You know what, though? You trained two pretty good guys. I mean, if part of your job was being a mentor, then you earned your money in that job.
Yeah, those guys were pretty talented guys too, though, so I can't take that much credit. But I just tried to play my best to make them try to earn it a little bit more. And in both cases, they did that.
Now, I got to ask you this, because goalies are always together, right? Because there's only two of you that have that position. You're obviously going to be close. In the best situation, you're going to be close. In a bad situation, that competition is going to eat you up. But goalies are always together, but there are still all those other guys on the team. How did you interact as a goalie in your time, with the forwards and the defensemen? If you weren't playing, were you just one of the guys?
Yeah. If I wasn't playing, I was definitely one of the guys.
Yeah, I know, because Jody told me when you were playing, it was totally different.
Yeah, I didn't talk to anybody when I played. I was all focused, and I felt I had to be that way to play my best. But when I wasn't playing, I was making jokes and playing around in the dressing room. And the guys knew really early, as soon as I walked into the dressing room and I started to get ready and get my sticks ready, they knew right away whether I was playing or not just by my demeanor. Everywhere I went, I always wanted to be a team guy. I said that it was really important that, if a player asked me, hey, Tug, do you want to go for dinner in St. Louis? I said, yeah, I'll go for sure. I never wanted to say no to a teammate, because if they're asking you, it's an honor that they're asking you to go out and hang out. And usually we'd get a bunch more guys to go as well. And usually my goalie partner was one of them.
When you talk about getting a bunch of guys, I said that the early years, the team was really close. How close was it? Like, was a bunch of guys the norm, doing things all the time?
Yeah, because we all came from a different team, right? So for the most part, very seldom, very few of the guys played with a guy when we came into Columbus. So it was an immediate, we all became friends. We all became tight groups. And it's really simple for players to be traded or move from one team to another. It's harder for the family. So, if you have wife and children, trying to get them, set up and it was a little bit more difficult. But even in that situation, we found that the wives got together, kids got together, players got together, and it was just a great atmosphere for the first year.
Yeah, and you had great characters on those teams too. I mean, Lyle Odeline, Kevin Dineen, just to name a couple. Who are some of the guys that you really enjoyed, or now looking back on it now saying, man, what a great group that was, and what a character this guy was or that guy was? Who jumps out at you?
I think Jamie Pusher was one, Bill Heward, Jeff Sanderson. Jeff Sanderson, young lads drafted 5th overall to Ottawa. and so yeah, we didn't have a tough time. All of us, we were all cast off, so we all felt no one was higher up on the food chain than anybody else. So we enjoyed each other's company.
It's funny you put it that way because that's exactly what it is. I mean, when you join an expansion team, you weren't protected, and basically one organization saying, yeah, we want to keep these guys, and if you go, you go. And so yeah, everybody shows up the same way. It's like a bunch of misfits looking to prove to the world that you're good players individually, and you wind up playing together as a group really well, right?
But the first year is really simple, to be honest with you. Like, everybody's so gung ho, everybody's excited. There's not a lot of pressure on us to win. No one's expecting us to win, but for the new city that we're moving into, they're just excited because Wayne Gretzky's coming next week, and they don't have to drive all the way to Pittsburgh or something to go see it. It's right in their own city. And, or Mary Lemieux's coming in, or, and the list goes on. They're coming to watch us, but yeah, let's be serious. They're also coming to see these stars that in most occasions they wouldn't get to see. So the first year was simple. It was easy, no high expectations, which resulted in a lot more wins. And towards the end of the year, it's like, we're in the race here to slide into that 8th spot. We're gonna have to stay hot or get really hot in the last month, but there's a chance, and nobody expected that to happen.
All right, I want to go to some fan questions here because I see a really good one that I want to kick this off with. And again, if you're watching and you want to ask a question, just go to the Q&A option down at the bottom of your screen, and you can type in a question that I can ask Ron for you. This question is from Stephanie Wright. And Stephanie says, first of all, thank you for all that you've done for our community and the Blue Jackets. I may be biased, but I feel the Blue Jackets are known for having amazing goaltenders. How do you feel about the legacy that you have left? The legacy, Ron Tugnutt. What do you feel like?
Well, I don't know if there's a legacy there, but what I enjoyed was being the first Columbus Blue Jackets and getting the first win. I know that many other guys are going to surpass a lot of my numbers and a lot of my win totals, but only one guy can have the first one. And I'm truly honored and feel privileged to be able to say that first one's mine. But you're right. I think they've done a wonderful job with their goaltenders. I love their 2 goalies that they have now, Korpisalo and Elvis. I think that they're both high-end guys. Just got to keep them healthy. But yeah, it's been a good run there, and hopefully it continues.
All right, here's I'm going to take these 2 questions and put them together because it's the same subject. Greg wants to know, how surreal was the Vote Tugnutt marketing campaign, and knowing you actually received a few votes for president? And Lil Boomer has kind of the same question, but wants to know if you still have a Tugnutt for president poster in your possession.
Well, for the first part of the question, the mock presidency that I went through was truly one of the funniest things I think I've ever done in my whole pro career. Wearing equipment in parks and going through farm fields, patting cows and kissing babies and so on and so on. It was truly a wild thing that we did, and whoever thought of doing that, it was truly around the timing and everything. Obviously, it was set up because of the presidential campaigns were going on at the time, but I think that it was purely genius and so much fun to do. But my wife was always someone that kept a lot of memorabilia, and so I do have posters, and I do have a bunch of T-shirts, that the Vote Tugnutt T-shirts that they gave out, stuffed away somewhere. Trying to find them in this house. With the amount of times we moved, it might be a chore, but I know we have them.
Now, when you were first approached about this, do you remember that day, or do you remember when somebody said, "Hey, we have this idea"?
Yeah, and I was like, "I'm going to do what?" And they go, "You're just going to wear your equipment all over the place, and pull your mask down, and then lift your mask up, and then next thing it started going, okay, you're going to give a speech now. You're going to give a speech, on a bench here, surrounded by people, and then you're going to hug a little baby, give her a kiss, and it just kept building and building. So I think the first 1 or 2 went off, and they just said, we got to keep this going. This is really bringing out the Blue Jackets, getting the crowd excited about the team coming to town, and it was fun.
Now, in all honesty, for a guy that had played in other markets, to be asked to do something like that, it could be, you don't have to say yes, but you did, and you embraced it, and you ran with it. And that's kudos to you, in my opinion, because you had a choice, and you chose to go ahead and play along. And obviously, people still love it. Here we are, 20th anniversary, and those are the first couple of questions that came in. Tugnutt for president. So it was obviously effective, but if you don't embrace it, it never carries that for 20 years.
Well, true, but for me, that was just going to be fun. I just knew right away. I said, this is just going to be fun. So, I'm all in for it. And, I said, let's just go in and attack it and truly embrace the whole thing. And, I don't know how many votes I got. It's some say 9, some say 11. But I think this year I could have even got even more. If I could have got back on the campaign trail, I think I could have got more than 11. But anyway, that's politics.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, no matter what the number is, Tugger, whatever you got are more presidential votes than most people will ever have in their life. Okay.
Yeah, and I was under the age of 35 and Canadian, so two important things that I guess didn't matter.
No, it didn't matter. No, didn't matter at all. And you're right. That's probably why this year you could have gotten even more than that. Rusty has this question. He goes, I know you played in a game that lasted 152 minutes. Did you ever think any team would get close like the 150-minute Blue Jackets playoff game against Tampa last year?
Yeah, that one, an interesting thing, because whenever every playoff year there's a game that gets to 3-4 overtimes, and immediately ours comes up now. Back in 99, Pittsburgh and Philly, and they start to acknowledge how many minutes we played, and you can see it's getting closer. So when I watched Columbus, and I was watching Corpusalo, I said, he's going to go 2 for 1 here. He's going to beat my save total. And I said, and he's going to beat the minutes. I said, and I'll be gone and never be on again. So part of me was like, I kind of want him to do it. But the other part of me was like, well, I kind of like, still having that brought up every once in a while. So that was a game. I stayed up the whole game watching it because I started to think it was definitely going to happen.
You know what the best part of that game was? That it started at 3 p.m, so you could go 5 overtimes and still be done by 9:30.
Yeah, mine started at 7. We finished at 2:30 in the morning.
What do you remember about intermissions once it started to drag along and it starts to really get near the end there? How did the intermissions change from the normal first intermission, second intermission during a game to where all of a sudden you're getting into a fourth period?
Well, the intermissions drop in time usually come playoff time. So it wasn't the usual, like, first 3 periods, 15-minute rest between. I think they're 10, 12 minutes. It just seemed like they're getting shorter and shorter. You get in the room and you'd sit down and you're like struggling to get back up. And, I always tell people the story that I played so many periods at both ends of the ice. I'd go to the door and I'd have to ask the guy that opened the door for us. I said, which end am I at this period? Because we were always the first one on. We were the home team, so we're the first team on the ice. So I didn't want to go to the wrong net, so I always had to ask. He goes, you're down that way. And I go, okay. And then the next period, he goes, you're down that way. I go, okay. And, but I it had all just blended into one big fog, and the game just kept going. And, I tell everybody I lost like 12 pounds, which is a lot for a guy my size. And I was wondering how Corpusalo was going to do after his, but I think these guys now are just better shape. They're better taken care of. They probably had intravenous in the room. We didn't have that. We had bacon and pizza and Gatorade. So, but it was something I truly enjoyed doing. I don't know if I'd want to do it again, but it was something else during the time we were doing it.
Pretty ironic, though, when you were watching that one really close, that there it is, the Blue Jackets, a team that you have a vested interest in, where that's going on, and a goaltender that's trying to take you out of the record books like that.
But that's what it's for, right? Stats and things are there for other people to break, and it's nice when they bring it up and say, oh, back in such a year, this guy did this. And, I think that that's part of history. And, even today you watch Wayne Gretzky, he's like, I hope Ovechkin beats my record. And I'm sitting there going, really? Do you really mean that? Like, I don't know if I would have, but everybody's different. But that's what they're there for. They're there to be broken, and they're also there to be brought back up for history to remember.
People ask me all the time, what was it like to call that game? And I got to a point, and I don't know if you've ever gotten like this watching a game or even in a game, maybe you weren't playing it, you don't think of this, but like with Korpisalo, I thought at one point I was like, you know what? I want to see 60 saves. Now I want to see 70 saves. It got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I want to see this guy make 100 saves. I think this could be a 100 save game. And so, like, to me, and I wasn't playing it, so it's completely different, but fans ask all the time. I thought it got more interesting the longer that it went. And also, and I don't know if it was like this in your game, so tell me if it was, only the first couple of minutes of the period was like legit hockey by the time you got to the fourth overtime, because then it was even the third overtime. It's like, we're going to get about 4 good minutes here, and then everybody's going to hang on and hope the other team makes a mistake for the final 16. Is that the way it is?
Yeah, because the first 4 minutes were a little more, we got a little bit of rest under us in the room, and guys were in the room cheering, going, let's get this thing over with. And there's, for me, it was Yager telling Kovalev, Kovy, you can finish this by yourself. Just get the puck and go through everybody and go score. And this is what Yager is telling Kovalev. And I'm sitting there going, Yager, why don't you do that? Like, you can do that yourself, But the first 4 minutes you get out there and they're rejuvenated, they're excited, but then it just goes to slow grinding hockey. And of course the referees don't call penalties, which for the most part I'm okay with, unless it's something obvious. But you're right though, it gets to a snail's pace. And in our game, Keith Primo, he had half the season off. He held out, so he had half the season off. So he had lots of legs left, I guess, in the 8th period. And he turned Kasperitis inside out, and then went short side shelf on me. So I said, well, it was the one guy that had more energy than everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember listening to that game. I was listening to it on the radio, and I kept on going. I was like, I wanted it to end. It's one of those things, you can't put it down, you can't walk away, and you don't want it to end. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't want it to end the way that it did end. I was rooting for your side. I wanted you to win in that one. But yeah, those are that game against Tampa. That's going to be one for the record books. There's no question about that. David wants to know what led to the design of your goalie masks that you used with various teams.
I think that the mask that everyone thinks about now is the splash mask, and I think I was looking for something different where. Talking with the artists and stuff. And I said, well, I'm in Montreal, and I didn't like the design of the mask I had. And a company named iTech no longer exists now, but they came in and they said, well, what do you think? I said, well, I want a splash, like a logo splashing into something and creating a big splash. And then, maybe my name down here and whatever. And so we went with that, and they brought it in. I said, okay, this is the Molson Splash, because the Canadians were owned by the Molson Canadians. So I said, I got myself the Molson Splash. And so when I left there, I went to Portland in the American League, and I didn't have the benefit of the NHL painters. So I got the American League painter, and that mask isn't very good, actually. It looks like a minor league paint job. So when I got back into Ottawa, we went to the Splash again, and with Ottawa, it was dropping the logo into gold and splashing, and then from there to Pittsburgh, it's penguin poo splashing, and it just, so at the end of the day, for me, it's just, I like to find myself as a happy-go-lucky guy that likes to have fun, and splashing and playing in water is just a sign of just being happy.
Did you keep that mask from Portland, or did you just discard that once you were back in the league?
No, we have that because that was where one of my sons was born. So it's actually his, and the other son was born in Anaheim, California. So he lucked out. He got the Ducks one, the original Ducks mask. So he's done well with that.
Yes. Hey, luck of the draw, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that Ducks one was made by Greg Harrison back in the old days. they used to lay the fiberglass over your face with a straw hanging out in the barber chair. And that's how they made it. But, the newer stuff, it's all one mask, and it's the foam inside that's fitted to your face.
Are you involved? I know you've done broadcasting. I know you were doing some coaching. Are you involved in anything right now, or at this moment, have you just kind of shut it down and you're enjoying your life?
Yeah, I think I've decided to retire. I've been out of the game now for 16 years, so you've kind of lost touch of really what's going on. And, I still think that I know a thing or two about goaltending, and you can teach and so forth, and be a mentor. But, I think I'm so far removed now, it'd be tough to get back into it.
When did you come to peace with that? Because I know it's not easy. It's not easy for any athlete to get away from their game, and especially when you're still doing some things and then you make that decision.
Well, as soon as I retired, I immediately went to Hockey Night in Canada, and I worked a year there, and grew a great deal of respect for analysts, the job that they do, because I didn't realize it was as difficult as it is. And being able to retain things and be able to pull things up, and have it stored, and more importantly, to be able to talk when someone's talking in your ear, and telling you to go into commercial in 5 seconds when you still have 15 seconds of a story to tell. Things like that, it's extremely difficult. And I think, I'm one of those people that I'm diving in and I'm focused on one thing. And when you start throwing more than one thing at me, it gets a little confusing. So, I just worried about a puck my whole life, and that was it, So, but then from there, I went to our World Junior team, and I worked in a goalie coaching setup, which I really enjoyed. I did a lot of stuff with minor hockey and stuff, and did the World Juniors. So I was still involved then for 5 years. And then after that, it became coaching. I got into not just goalie coaching, but like head coaching or assistant coaching. And I thoroughly enjoyed that for, it must have been 6-7 years. And, after that, my kids were going off to college, and I owned a junior team that Jason York bought from me. And I said, well, I guess I'm done. I'm not going to coach anymore, and I'm just going to travel every weekend to go watch my kids play.
Well, that part's a good part, right?
Oh, it's great. Long hours in the car, 9 hours driving, every weekend, and sometimes in snowstorms. But I wouldn't have missed that to go watch them play.
Well, but obviously from this discussion, you still got the interest in the game. You're still watching the NHL game. I know it's a lot different than it was way back 20 years ago when you came to Columbus, but what do you like the most about the NHL today and the style of the game and the way it's played?
Well, obviously the speed is special. The skill level is very special. But for me, I watch a lot more hockey in the playoffs than I do the regular season, because it is a different beast. The intensity level's higher. Just you get away with a little bit more stuff, and it makes the game, you have to compete harder to fight through things. And I really prefer playoff hockey, but during the season hockey, you get to see a tremendous amount of skill in guys. And, from beating guys one-on-one and so forth. But come playoff time, the game becomes more physical. And I like to see that, because I want to see the character of that star player, if he can fight through that and make his team a champion. And because that's what he has to learn to do. And that's a really hard thing for the star elite players to do.
And you know what? Today, even the goalies, they don't have to face nearly the kind of traffic. They face traffic, but that traffic's usually a little further out. It's not necessarily crowded right in there against them like it was when you played. Who are some guys, or was there one guy or maybe a couple of guys that when you played their team and you knew that they were going to park themselves in that crease and that you were just going to have to deal with them all night long, was there anybody that you were like, oh my God, I got to put up with this guy. I don't want to deal with this guy?
A lot of it is around power plays, and Cam Neely, all 6'4", and him standing in front of 5'10" of me. Wasn't easy to look around. Dale Hunter was, even though I came into Quebec with him in Quebec at the time, he did me no favors. He was a nasty, nasty guy in front that would, if I had the puck covered, he'd be trying to like use a skate to cut my wrist or something. He'd be looking underneath the pile when someone was on him he was just nasty, so things like that you always worried about. Dino Cicerelli made a living out of standing in front of the net. These are all really old guys, but for me, Cam Neely was probably the one that thank God they brought the rules of stay out of the blue paint, because he was on the red paint. He was on the goal line with me. That's how far he would push me in there. And, there's never a penalty for that back then.
No, there weren't any penalties for that. You're right. And so I knew there were some guys that would jump to the forefront on that one. I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, again, appreciate you taking the time. It is great to see you. It's great to talk with you. And hey, I'm going to tell these guys just to book it in 5 years. You got to be back for a 25th anniversary.
Well, hopefully there'll be like a game, and I'll see where the body's at then. If I can actually put goalie equipment on again, probably not. But I've been working on the other part of my game, and I'm a scoring centerman now. I'm a soft perimeter player, doesn't like to get hit, likes the puck, likes to dangle with it, and likes to score. But, I don't like the physical play at all. So that's perfect for an alumni game.
Well, it's almost perfect for today's NHL, quite frankly. Truth be told.
I'm coming back then.
Yeah. Well, make sure you get on your alumni director to make sure that he gets that game set up.
Well, I could try to do that, but go Jackets. I'm loving what they're doing. I love the way they compete. I love the way Torts makes everybody accountable and makes them compete. And the one thing with Torts is he makes that team a team. There's no one special, and I really like that, and I think that's what wins.
John Tortorella is a little bit of the old school that is left in the game. There's not a lot of the old school left in the game today, but he definitely fits that category, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and you know what you're going to get, and you know what he wants. As an athlete, what else do you need to know? That's all you need to know. Just do what you're supposed to do, and everything's going to be fine. If you don't, then why am I playing you?
Well put. Ron, thanks again so much. Really appreciate it. Great to see you. Hope everything is great with you and your family. And I look forward to talking to you again sometime. I might not wait 5 years to talk to you, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine. No problem. I can't wait to get down there and catch another game. And, if it's not this winter or the rest of this winter, which it probably won't be, maybe next summer or the year after. But I love getting down there and seeing what's going on. All
right. Thanks again, Ron. Really appreciate it. And hey, congratulations for being a part of that group that got things started here in Columbus. 20 years have gone by, and you're still well known and appreciated, and they still want you to run for president.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob.
All right. Goodbye, Ron.